Hey, Motorman here. If you watch this channel, you know a couple of weeks ago I had a student that was having some serious problems in the class. He was on an Indian chief, and I offered her a free lesson, one-on-one, to help her overcome her problems. She didn't have a fear of leaning, which is unusual. Her problems lied elsewhere, mainly in the friction zone and the proper use of the rear brake. So got her to the one-on-one lesson, and I'm going to show you the outcome. Did I make her a fantastic rider in a few hours? No, but I made her a lot better rider, and we found out exactly what the problem was. All right. So I'm here with Priscilla, and Priscilla took the class, what, 3-4 weeks ago?
Yes.
And I noticed that she didn't have a fear of leaning the motorcycle, which is usually the biggest fear that people have. But she didn't have a really good handle on the friction zone and the proper use of the rear brake. We all know the rear brake is a little helper. It's mainly clutch and throttle. So that's what we're going to work on, those two things today, because at times it seems that she's leaning the bike and she's turning, but the bike, it seems that it's riding her rather than the other way around. So that's what we're going to fix today. You ready?
Ready.
If you saw the last video I did with Priscilla, two major problems she had was she hadn't really mastered the friction zone, and she just didn't know how to use the rear brake. So here's how I started with the friction zone exercise. So let the clutch out a little bit. Don't let it stall. Go, vroom, vroom. Whoa, don't let it climb the curve. Not that much. Bring it closer again. Once she found the friction zone, we went on to the slow race. She did have some problems with this, and we worked on it for about 20 or 30 minutes. Slip the clutch, foot on the brake, head and eyes up. Slower. So we got her going through the slow cone. We've got the cones laying down so that she doesn't hit them with her bags, and we'll get them staying up in a little bit. You got 3 ways to slow it: clutch, throttle, and brake. Using way too much throttle, but it's better to do that at the beginning than not enough. All right, that was skill. Then you did 3 times is real skill.
I'll try that one.
All right. This exercise is called the offset cone weave. It does take clutch, throttle, in other words friction zone, a little pressure on the rear brake. Notice her rear brake lights almost never come on despite my pleas for her to use that rear brake. Go, keep going. Just go around. Use that brake. I see as you're coming around the curves, there's no brake. Yep. Start from the beginning. I realized that the Indian was too big a bike for her skill level, so I put her on the Sportster to see how that would work out. All right, so now I put Priscilla on the Sportster, and it's like night and day. She's actually scraping the pegs on this. Granted, it doesn't have a whole lot of lean angle, but she's really leaning that motorcycle here. And I can see she's on the brake, still using too much throttle. Of course, the techniques are the same regardless of the size of the motorcycle, but heavier bikes tend to intimidate people, and she was definitely intimidated by her bike. After 8 or 9 times through the exercise, I decided to put her back on her bike and see how that worked out. So now we got her back on her bike, and let's see if that little bit of muscle memory from the Sportster transfers. Still not using the rear brake most of the time, which she should be doing because it makes things easier when you're just learning these techniques. She's much better now on the Indian because the Sportster really helped her move that bike around quickly. Since that worked so well on the previous exercise, I put her back on the Sportster for the intersection. The intersection is 24 foot wide by 36 feet long, and it teaches you the U-turns and quick transitions all at once, very similar to the past exercise. Now, her throttle is still too high, and she doesn't use the brake as much as she should, but she does very well, considering a couple of weeks ago on her own bike, she couldn't perform this exercise at all. Not a single U-turn was she able to make last time, so this definitely helps her. Priscilla told me that prior to getting the Indian Chief, she had a Chieftain. So she went from a C50 Suzuki to a Chieftain, a 900-pound bike, and she couldn't handle that one at all, so she moved down to the Indian Chief. Now she's back on the Indian, and considering just 3 weeks ago, she couldn't do any of the exercises in the intersection. She couldn't complete any U-turns. This is a 100% improvement. While she's not perfect and she's going a little wide, being on that Sportster and getting it through her head that, yeah, the techniques are the same. The weight of the motorcycle doesn't matter. Riding well is 90% mental and 10% physical. It's really all in your head. What happened there? Do you know? Do you know what just happened? Why you couldn't make that turn?
I let off this.
No, you didn't turn your head. As soon as that turn was completed, had you looked at that green, you'd have made that easily. But because you waited till you passed the big cone and then tried to look for it, it was too late.
Okay.
So, and in these U-turns that you're making, make sure you get your head around.
Yeah.
Never look at the end and never look at the opposite side. Imagine that that's not even there.
Okay.
All right, cruise around the whole parking lot a couple of times, get your chi back, relax a little bit, rest your hands, cool off your motorcycle.
Okay.
You could do this. Now we move on to the snowman. 3 circles, 30 foot to the left, 26 foot to the right, and 24 feet to the left. Now, I know she can do this. It took about 7 or 8 tries, and she finally got through it. She wouldn't do it on her Indian or try it. She was really tired out by that time. We're probably 3.5 hours into this.
I was doing that fine before down there.
Pull right over there to that green one, and then as soon as you get near it, look for that next one.
Okay.
Green. Look back here. Look back here. Look over there. That's it. Priscilla told me she still has the C50 Suzuki, so my suggestion to her is to practice all these exercises and these techniques on the C50, and once she gets them down and can easily do them on the C50, then try the same thing on her Indian, and then come back to the class. All that shouldn't take more than a couple of weeks at most, and we'll see if she's got the determination to be a really good rider. It's completely up to her now.